What's up, YouTubers? Johnny DIY here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to load your car, truck, or SUV onto a U-Haul drive-on transport trailer. I'm going to be doing a real-life DIY on this. If you guys are new to my channel, do me a favor, click the subscribe and the notification bell so you can get all my new videos. Alright, so let's get to it. So we're driving a 15-foot U-Haul, and we've got the drive-on transport trailer right here. This is the one that your whole car drives onto. Which is just better for your car. You don't have to worry about anything like the driveline or anything. Chances are you've already had to disconnect it from the ball right here, because if you don't, then you can't really use the ramp right here to load up your truck. So first thing we're going to do is hook this back up to the ball. So what you're going to want to do is just back it up, lining up this part right with the ball.
There.
Okay, now after a couple minutes of lining it up, we got it right above where the ball is. It helps if you lower down this as much as you can, close to above the ball. So then we're just going to go ahead and crank it down. Make sure it's right on the ball. This one just drops and locks in when it has this kind of lever, but a lot of them will have a turn lever, which is a lock. You just turn that clockwise. Once you get it seated down all the way on the ball, and that'll lock it on the ball. Crank it up now. You're gonna want this all the way up off the floor, as high as it'll go till it bottoms out. Make sure it's tight. Now we're gonna want to connect our wiring. Just plug it in. Make sure it's free. It's not gonna bind on anything when you turn. Okay, now you're gonna want to connect your 3 safety chains. Loop them through. Make sure they have some slack for turning, but they're not going to drag on the ground. Loop it back on the chain, and then make sure you lock it with these rubber straps. So you're going to do these in an X pattern and a cross pattern. That's in case this comes off the ball. In case of emergency, this will come down on the cross chains, and the chains will cradle it. So as an emergency, those are safety chains. Then this third one, this one's in case it disconnects. This is a safety brake. It'll activate the brakes. Loop that one back on itself too. Here you have all these grommets nice and tight. Once you got all 3 chains hooked up, come over here on the driver's side. You're gonna lift up this hook right here, drop it down, one on each side. You just pull it, lower it down. Now we can lower this whole fender. That's so we can drive up there and we won't have to worry about hitting the fender when we open our door. We're going to undo all our strapping. Spread it open like that. And we're going to lay it down so we can drive it over it. And you're going to want to undo these safety chains right here. Hang these out of the way for now. There's one in the front and one in the back. Now we're going to undo the ramps. There's just a little clip right here. This is the lock. Undo it, pull the ramp out a little bit. Make sure they're both pulled out all the way, and you kind of need to line them up, make sure they're both straight.
That's it?
All the way? Yep. Now if you have a manual transmission, go ahead and leave it in gear and then pull your emergency brake nice and tight. If you have an automatic, go ahead and put it in park and then pull your emergency brake. Okay, so you want to pull your front wheels all the way above this bump right here, all the way to this stop right here in the front, this little angled spot. You want your tires right up against that stop. Now I forgot to mention, you don't want to load a ton of stuff in your tow vehicle because that's going to throw off the weight. If you have to throw in a couple things, go ahead and throw a couple things in the front, more towards the front of the vehicle. That'll be better for the weight proportion. Okay, so you're going to grab your strapping, and this is just going to go over the front tires. The whole thing is going to cradle it. We want to slide our straps on this. They're adjusting so that this whole strap cradles that tire. You're going to make sure it's all lined up straight. Then this part, this is the ratchet system. This just slides in and out. You want to line it up right with the middle of your tire. You're going to run your strap down through this groove right here in the spindle in the middle. We're going to pull that strap back towards us and feed it up through here. pull the strap as tight as you can. Then you're going to start ratcheting it. Bring it down. When we ratchet this up and down, it's going to start pulling these tires down really tight. That's okay. We want to ratchet this as tight as we can. As tight as I can get it. If there's any extra strap like this, see this? We don't want that dragging on the floor now. You can loop it back up, not around the release lever. Just don't want those straps dragging on the floor. So see how this thing is really tight. The tire's bulging and everything. That's great. We want it just that tight. We're gonna do the same thing to both sides, obviously. Pull it tight, then start ratcheting. This is still gonna loosen up once you start driving. And I have to recheck these straps after about the first 10-20 miles. Tie up our excess. Now with these straps, guys, if you have a big truck or SUV with extra large all-terrain tires, these straps are not going to fit around that. So you're either going to have to put smaller tires and wheels on it for transport, or you're going to have to bring your own special large straps to strap it down to this trailer. Okay, remember those safety chains we laid out? Now it's time to come underneath the car, and you're going to want to wrap these safety chains ideally around either an axle, if you have axles on your car that are exposed, or frame. You're going to want to make sure when you wrap the chain, you're not wrapping around any brake lines, wiring, sensors, anything like that. Steer clear of that. You're going to pull that chain tight. If you have slack, you're going to wrap it back around the same object again. Don't twist the chain. When you twist the chain, it's going to weaken it. But you want to keep this tight. Okay, then you're going to loop it back on. Make sure you put that rubber strap on nice and tight. So you're going to do the same thing to the back. Sorry, I'm running out of light, guys. Be ready to get dirty when you're doing this part. That's good. Then we're going to put the ramps up. Slide them back in. Make sure when you slide them in that this little release lever, it's also the lock that when you slide it in, it clicks in, and that's what locks these. You can go ahead and give them a pull just to make sure they're locked in there. We're going to want to put that fender back. We'll pull these rubber grommet locks up. They just hook onto the lock. Pull it up till this ball part of it goes into this part. Okay, then you're going to want to double check all your connections. We got our safety chains front and back. We got both of our wheels tightened. We got the ramps up. We got our crisscrossed safety chains on the front. Got our ball locked. Make sure you have that tightened if you have an adjustment. And lastly, okay, before we drive, speed limit on these with a towing vehicle is only 55. So make sure you're not driving really fast. And take your time, guys. Drive slow when you're pulling a trailer because you don't want it to go fishtail and you can get in a wreck really easy. So drive in the slow lane, give yourself plenty of time to get there. So we just got to our first rest stop, and I got one click on each of the ratchets on each side. Lock it back down, tire straps back up. So yeah, it's definitely a good idea to recheck your straps. Well, it's the next morning, we made it. I do suggest driving during the day if you have the choice, obviously. First thing we're gonna do now to get it off the trailer is we gotta take the safety chains off, front and back. This fender down now. Go ahead and take the straps off the wheels. Here's the release on the ratchet system right here. We just push down, then we're going to pull the whole lever up until it snaps like that. That releases all the tension. And we can pull the straps out. Then we're going to go ahead and put the straps back. And then you're just going to want to double check. You got both your straps off. You got both the safety chains front and back off. Got the ramps down. Got the fender down on the side. Now we can just go ahead and back it off. Make sure your emergency brake's off. You're going to want to slowly back up. You may have to put blocks if you have a lowered car. See how low it gets when you back it up towards the bottom. You may have to put wood blocks in the end of the ramp for that so you don't scrape. Now we can go ahead and start putting everything back the way we got it. Put our fender up, put our ramps in. Make it nice and tidy for the next person. Make sure those are locked in. And then you're going to want to take your safety chains, wrap these around so they don't drag. Make sure they're nice and tight. And make sure your straps are up on the deck. Let's go ahead and tie them around here. Tie them in a little simple knot just so these don't flap and drag on the ground when you take it back. Alright, it's all good, guys. That is how to transport your car on one of these U-Haul transport trailers. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe and click the notification bell. Thanks for watching Johnny DIY. Keep on doing it yourself, guys. Take care.